The doctor's office. The doctor looks at me and says, "You're 29 years old. You had a heart attack, and their damage is irreversible." I'm a little bit shocked, and I look at him and I go, "Am I going to live to be in my 70s?" And he looks at me, thinks about it for a couple seconds, which kind of scared me, and then he goes, "Yeah, you can live to be in your 70s. Just don't have another heart attack." Okay. All right. Fair enough. I get out of the doctor's office and I see an old lady sitting down, smoking a cigarette. She had to be in her 70s. She's smoking. She's eating a hamburger. And I'm like looking at her, and I'm just like with all this anger and jealousy. I'm like, fuck this bitch. Why does she get to live this long? I'm not gonna live this long. Then I remembered what the doctor said: don't have another heart attack. And I became obsessed. I came home, I started researching how to not have another heart attack. And a lot of the books, they said yoga. So I took some yoga, I did some Bikram, Iyengar, I dabbled in it, but I couldn't keep up with the class. It was just, I was always like trying to keep up and I just couldn't do it. And I ended up leaving. But one day I met this girl called Elena, this Italian chick. And she's just like, "Yossi, I do this thing called Mysore. It is amazing." And I'm like, what is it? She's like, it's unlike anything you've ever seen. This is a different type of yoga. I'm like, all right. So I go with her to a class, walk into a class, and it was a large room, and there's 25 people doing their own thing. Everybody's doing their own thing. The men are wearing bathing suits, and the women are wearing tops and bottoms. And one guy's doing sun salutations, one lady's lying on the floor, one person's doing a headstand, and I'm like, wow, this is great. This is not a lead class. And there's two instructors, and the instructors are adjusting everybody and giving everybody personalized direction. And the two instructors, there's a guy and a girl. The guy's name is Arthur. Arthur is like this tall, good-looking guy. Kind of looks like Jesus without the beard. And Costanza's this short, athletically built, tough female. She was kind of like the bad cop. And Costanza comes up to me, and she gives me like 4 poses to do. And I do them, and then she's like, "Great, come back tomorrow." So I came back that day, I came out the next day, the day after, and I started coming every day. 2 weeks into it, I'm doing a pose, and Costanza looks at me and goes, "Yossi, come here." And I walk over to her, and she points to my feet, and she goes, "Yossi, Amanasana." I'm like, "What's Amanasana?" She's like, "Hygiene." I'm like, "What do you mean?" She's like, "Your toenails. You gotta cut your toenails." I was like, "What?" And she's like, "You're not allowed to come to my class unless you cut your toenails." Okay, fine. But I'm thinking, I'm muttering underneath my breath, what a yoga Nazi. So I cut my toenails and I come back to the next class. And I keep doing it, and it kind of changed me. It was almost like a keystone habit. Not only was I becoming more flexible and relaxed, but I was also becoming more hygienic. I started brushing my teeth even twice a day. Anyway, so about a couple of months into the class, I am now, basically the way Mysore works, you get poses. As you advance, you get more poses. They just give you more poses, and the more you advance, you get more poses. So I was up to what we call the standing poses. And I just like to say, I like the simplicity of the class. I like the fact that you could just come into the class, and I would take off my pants, and I just walk in and do it in my boxers. There was not a lot of things where you could really just do it in your boxers, and this was one of them. So I'm doing the standing pose, and it's a pose like this. And Costanza looks at me and, come here. I was like, yeah. She's like, "No more boxers. No more boxers. You're not wearing any more boxers." I'm like, "Well, but there are people wearing Speedos. No boxers." And I'm like, how about I double box her? I wear 2 boxers. And she's like, okay, fine. So we had a deal. I would double box her. So I'm doubling box her, and anyway, it's now a couple months turned to years. 3 years into this, I'm pretty much a regular. And Arthur, the teacher, takes me over to the side one day, and he's like, Yossi, I just want to say, when you first started, you were one of the worst students, if not the worst student I've ever had. But now you're slightly above average. And I'm like, okay. You know, at first I was kind of insulted, but then I was like, all right, that's progress, you know? I'm fine with mediocrity. So, you know, I kept doing it. And I liked the fact that the mat was always there. Like, if I had a bad day, a bad morning, a bad breakup, if I was fired from my job, I would always have that mat to practice on and to do the poses. Anyway, I'm already 6 years into it, and I'm already now pretty much at the end of the poses. I basically did the sun salutations, the standing pose, and now I'm on the sitting poses. And Costanza comes up to me one day and takes me to the side again, like, what does she want now? And she says, Yossi, I want to show you something. And she takes out her phone, and on the phone, there's an x-ray of her chest. And in the x-ray of her chest, she only had 1 lung. And she's like, look, I have 1 lung, but I practice every day, and and she was graceful and like one of the best yogi I knew. And I was like, wow, you know,